Are you living your final human life? In Buddhism, reincarnation isn't just a mystical idea. It's a deep map of the soul's journey, life after life, shaped by karma, intention, and awareness. Most people are caught in this cycle: birth, suffering, death, repeat, without ever realizing it. But a rare few reach a point where the cycle starts to slow down, where the soul begins to whisper, "I'm almost done." What if that's you? What if the reason you feel different, distant, or deeply drawn to truth is because your soul is in its final human form, ready to break free? In this video, we're diving into 10 subtle but powerful signs that you're reaching the end of your reincarnation journey. These signs aren't flashy. They won't be obvious to most. But if you feel them in your bones, you'll know. Let's start with the first one. 1. You've lost interest in chasing stuff. This isn't just about hating shopping or being minimalist. It's deeper than that. You start to feel detached from things that used to excite you: money, status, attention, even luxury. Where others are obsessed with having more, you find yourself quietly letting go. Not because you're broke, not because you're lazy, but because it just doesn't feel meaningful anymore. You see someone flaunting wealth, and instead of admiration, you feel emptiness. You step into a loud, flashy store, and it feels hollow. You used to care about being liked or noticed. Now, you care more about being real, being peaceful. That's a big shift. In Buddhist teaching, attachment is one of the core reasons we keep coming back. We cling to what feels good. We run from what feels bad. But once your soul learns that true peace isn't found in the material world, something inside you just lets go. You stop needing more. You start needing less. Less noise, less clutter, less ego. Your focus shifts to experiences that nourish your spirit: quiet moments, deep talks, stillness. You care more about being present than being impressive. You're drawn to simplicity like it's air. And maybe you've noticed, you no longer try to keep up with people who chase wealth or attention. You're not impressed by followers, fancy titles, or designer labels. You see right through it. You're not judging. You've just outgrown that chapter. You're not escaping life. You're learning how to live it, without needing to own it. And when this shift happens naturally, not forced, not faked, it's a powerful sign that your soul has learned the lesson of detachment. One of the final lessons. If this speaks to you, stay close. Because the next signs go even deeper. 2. You're craving solitude. Not loneliness, just silence. There comes a point in your journey when the noise of the world just gets too loud. You don't hate people. You're not isolating yourself out of sadness. But your soul starts craving quiet. Real quiet. You feel most alive when you're alone, with your thoughts, with nature, with the sound of nothing. You start pulling away from parties, small talk, busy group chats, not because you're bitter, but because it all feels heavy, distracting, even draining. Being around too much energy, even if it's positive, starts to weigh you out. You notice it after social events, this subtle exhaustion, like your spirit needs time to recharge in silence. This isn't introversion. It's awakening. Your soul is beginning to realize that the answers you're looking for won't come from the outside. They are in the stillness, in the space between thoughts, in the moments when you finally stop performing and start just being. In Buddhism, silence is sacred. It's not emptiness, it's presence. And presence opens doors to truths that words can't touch. So you begin making space. You journal. You walk alone. You turn off your phone more often. You stop feeling guilty for needing time to yourself. And honestly, solitude starts to feel like home. Even lifelong relationships might shift. Some fall away, not out of anger, but because your soul just isn't hungry for the same things anymore. You love them, but you also love your peace. And peace is non-negotiable now. You may find yourself drawn to trees more than people. You start noticing the way light moves through your room in the morning. You begin to feel whole in ways you never did in a crowded room. Solitude is not an escape. It's alignment. It's your soul saying, "I'm listening now. I'm ready." And if this longing for silence keeps pulling you inward, it's a strong sign you're reaching the final stretch of your journey through this world. You're not avoiding life. You're finally meeting it face to face. 3. You feel everything, even what others can't. You might not talk about it much, but the way you feel things, it's different. Deeper. A quiet song can make you cry. A stranger's pain can sit in your chest for hours. Crowded rooms feel overwhelming, not because you're antisocial, but because you absorb everything. The tension, the joy, the sadness, the chaos. It's not just empathy. It's not being too emotional. It's a spiritual sensitivity. And it's one of the strongest signs that your soul has evolved far beyond the surface. In past lives, you may have learned how to survive, succeed, fight, or lead. But in this life, your final one, you're here to feel, to soften, to open. And with that openness comes a kind of emotional radar that can't be turned off. Movies hit harder. Stories stay with you longer. You don't just hear people's words. You feel their energy, their fear, their truth, even the stuff they try to hide. You might walk into a room and instantly sense something's off, or feel totally drained after being around someone who's angry or bitter, even if they never said a word. In Buddhism, this depth of feeling is connected to karuna, compassion. Not pity, not sympathy. Real compassion. The kind that sees another person suffering and instinctively wants to help. Not because you're a savior, but because you see yourself in them. The separation between you and them starts to fade. You start realizing everyone is hurting. Everyone is carrying something. And that awareness changes how you move through the world. You become softer, gentler. You forgive more, judge less. But here's the thing, this level of sensitivity can feel like a burden at times. You might feel misunderstood, overwhelmed, or even emotionally exhausted. That's okay. You're not weak. You're just tuned into a frequency most people aren't even aware exists. You feel deeply because your soul is awake. And that awareness, the ability to feel the collective heartbeat of life, isn't a flaw. It's a gift. One that signals your soul is nearing its highest form. If you've ever wondered, why do I care so much? This might be the answer. You're here to feel everything so you can finally let it all go. 4. You stay calm in chaos. Life throws storms at everyone. Betrayals, losses, failures, unexpected changes. Most people panic, shut down, or lash out. But you've started to respond differently. It's not that you don't feel pain. You do. But you don't drown in it anymore. There's a steady stillness inside you now, a peace that doesn't get tossed around every time something goes wrong. When things fall apart, you don't spiral. You pause. You breathe. You observe. This isn't numbness. It's clarity. You've stopped expecting life to always be fair or comfortable. You understand, deep down, that pain comes and goes like weather. And because you don't cling to how things should be, you suffer less when they change. That's spiritual maturity. That's evolution. Buddhism teaches that suffering doesn't come from pain itself. It comes from resistance. From our refusal to accept change, impermanence, and uncertainty. But when your soul starts remembering that everything, good or bad, is temporary, peace becomes your default. You no longer react from fear. You respond from awareness. You might still cry. You might still feel shaken. But inside, there's this voice that says, this too will pass. And it does. And you keep going, more centered, more grounded. People might even come to you in their own storms. They feel your energy, your calm, your quiet strength. Not because you've mastered life, but because you've stopped trying to control it. You've surrendered, not in defeat, but in wisdom. This kind of peace isn't taught. It's earned through lifetimes of struggle. And if you've started feeling it, especially during hard times, it's a clear sign that your soul is reaching the final stages of its human evolution. You're not escaping the world. You're learning to live in it without being owned by it. 5. You've always felt like you don't belong. There's a quiet truth you've carried most of your life. You feel different. Not in an arrogant way. Not like you're better than anyone. Just not fully part of the world around you. Even as a kid, you may have looked at people chasing status, gossiping, or fighting over things that felt pointless, and wondered, is this really what life is about? You've probably found yourself watching more than participating. Like you're here, but not really of here. This sense of being out of place isn't a flaw. It's not something broken in you. It's actually a sign that your soul is waking up. In Buddhist thought, as the soul nears the end of its reincarnation journey, it starts to detach from illusion, which is called Maya. That illusion is what keeps most people obsessed with appearance, approval, drama, and fear. But when your soul begins to see through it, life starts to feel unreal. Like a dream you can't quite wake up from. This can be lonely. You may not connect with your family the same way. Or you find yourself drifting from old friends, unable to relate to what used to feel normal. You may even doubt yourself, wondering why you feel out of sync with almost everything. But here's the truth, your soul didn't come here to fit in. It came to wake up. And that path is often quiet, misunderstood, and deeply personal. Others might call you too sensitive, too intense, too serious. But what they are really seeing is your depth, and most people aren't comfortable with that. Over time, this feeling of being different stops hurting. It becomes power. You stop needing to explain yourself. You stop chasing approval. You find peace in walking your own path, even if no one claps for it. And that, in itself, is freedom. If you've always felt like you don't belong in this world, maybe it's because you don't. Not fully. Not anymore. You've outgrown the illusion. And now, you're walking towards something much bigger. 6. Ego no longer controls you. You've likely met your ego before. Loud, anxious, always needing to prove something. It wanted to be right. It wanted people to admire you. It feared being small, being forgotten, being wrong. But at some point, that voice started to quiet down. Not all at once, but gradually. You stopped needing to win every argument. You stopped chasing people who didn't see your worth. You no longer felt a pull to compete or constantly compare. Why? Because you began to notice how exhausting it is to live through the ego. It's like being trapped in a mask you can never take off. As the soul reaches its final reincarnations, it starts dissolving that mask. It doesn't kill the ego, it simply sees through it. You understand now that you're not your title, your body, your success, or your failures. You're something deeper. Something is watching from behind your thoughts. You've stopped performing. You've started being. This shift doesn't mean you've become perfect. It means you're honest. When the ego flares up, you catch it. You don't feed it. You laugh at it sometimes. This humility, real, quiet humility, isn't weakness. Its strength is rooted in self-awareness. And in a world driven by ego, your detachment from it makes you feel both lighter and lonelier. But it also makes you free. Because when ego no longer controls you, no one else can either. 7. You forgive, even when they don't deserve it. You've been hurt. Deeply. People have lied to you, betrayed you, taken advantage of your kindness. In the past, you might have held on to that pain, nursed the anger, replayed the story, waited for an apology that never came. But now you've started letting go. Not because they deserve your forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. This isn't about forgetting. It's not about pretending it didn't happen. It's about choosing not to be poisoned by it anymore. When your soul reaches maturity, it realizes that holding on to pain is like drinking venom and expecting the other person to suffer. And that resentment, no matter how justified, is still a chain around your own heart. So you start to release. You forgive the parent who couldn't love you properly, the friend who used you, the lover who left without closure, even yourself, for all the ways you didn't know better. Forgiveness becomes less about morality and more about freedom. And strangely, the more you let go, the more compassion you feel. You begin to see others not as evil, but as lost, trapped in their own pain, just like you once were. That doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you don't carry them inside you anymore. You forgive. You bless them from a distance. And you move forward, lighter than before. That's not weakness. That's evolution. 8. You have a deep, unshakable inner peace. Life still throws things at you. Bills still come. People still leave. Things still go wrong. But beneath all of that, there's a calm. A quiet knowing that no matter what happens, you'll be okay. Not because things always go your way, but because your peace no longer depends on them. This peace didn't come from success. It came from surrender. You stopped resisting life so much. You stopped trying to control every outcome. You learned to breathe, to wait, to trust. Now, when chaos comes, you don't panic the same way. You observe. You adjust. You move through it without falling apart. This doesn't mean you've become cold or indifferent. You still feel, deeply. But your feelings don't drown you anymore. You become the eye of the storm, still, centered, untouchable. And maybe you've noticed people come to you when they're struggling. They sense something in you, something steady, something safe. They don't know what it is, but you do. It's the result of lifetimes of growth, of breaking and healing, of remembering who you really are. Inner peace isn't just a feeling. It's a sign your soul is nearing its final return. 9. You crave solitude, not as escape, but as home. There was a time when being alone felt like a punishment. You chased company, conversation, noise, anything to avoid sitting with yourself. But now, silence feels sacred. You crave solitude. Long walks, quiet mornings, time away from screens, crowds, and small talk. Why? Because the more you grow, the more you realize peace lives in stillness. And truth speaks in whispers. You don't isolate to escape the world. You retreat to reconnect with your soul. And in that space, things become clay. You hear your intuition. You feel your energy reset. You remember what matters. This doesn't mean you don't love people. It means you no longer need their presence to feel complete. You could spend a day in silence and feel more alive than you would at a crowded party. You could be alone for hours and feel full, not empty. That's because your relationship with yourself has matured. You're no longer running from your own reflection. You've become your own sanctuary. And in a world addicted to noise, your love for solitude isn't antisocial. It's sacred. It's a sign you've stopped seeking outside what already lives within. 10. You no longer fear death. You don't talk about it often. Most people don't. But quietly, deep down, your fear of death has faded. It's not that you want to die. You still cherish life. You still laugh, dream, cry, and love. But death doesn't haunt you like it used to. Why? Because some part of you remembers, this isn't the end. It never was. You've likely brushed up against death before. Maybe through illness, loss, or an experience that brought you close to the edge. And instead of terror, you felt peace. A strange familiarity. As if your soul recognized the doorway. This calm around death isn't denial, it's wisdom. You understand now that death isn't a punishment. It's a passage. A return. A coming home. Final incarnation souls often feel this detachment. Not because they are fearless, but because they've danced this dance many times. And they know, what waits beyond isn't darkness. It's light. So you live differently. You don't waste time on things that don't matter. You love deeply, speak honestly, and let go easily. Because you know, it all goes in the end. But that doesn't make life meaningless. It makes it sacred. When you stop fearing death, you start truly living. And that, more than anything, is a sign your soul is finally ready to go home. If you've seen yourself in these signs, feeling detached from the world, craving truth over comfort, shedding old ego-driven patterns, and being drawn to silence, service, and inner clarity, then you may be nearing the end of your soul's long journey through reincarnation. But remember, this isn't about being better or more spiritual than anyone else. It's about remembering. It's about waking up from the illusion, not escaping life, but seeing it clearly, without fear, without craving, without needing it to be anything other than what it is. A soul in its final lifetime isn't perfect. It still feels pain, still stumbles, still forgets. But it also returns, again and again, to presence, to truth, to stillness. And it knows, deep down, that none of this is an accident. So if you feel tired, not just physically, but cosmically tired, if you look at the world and feel like you've done this before, if you're drawn to inner peace more than outer rewards, you're not lost. You're completing the circle. And when that final breath comes not in fear, but in peace, you'll remember. You were never here to stay. You were here to learn, and now, you're almost free. The soul's journey is long and mysterious, but it's also sacred. If something in this video stirred something in you, don't ignore it. Sit with it. Let it breathe. This path is yours, and no one else can walk it for you. But you're not alone. If this resonated with your spirit, drop a sign in the comments, so we know you're one of the old souls. Subscribe for more deep, soul-level content like this. And if you feel called, share this video with someone who's been searching for answers they can't explain. Your journey matters. Thanks for walking this part of it with us. Until next time, stay grounded, stay awake, stay free.